I nearly choked on my coffee. Sophie, my best friend and the ultimate instigator, grinned at me from across the table. Her bright, mischievous eyes twinkled like she'd just discovered the world's greatest secret. "Beckett Reed," she said, as if this was some sort of normal Tuesday morning conversation. "Beckett Reed." I repeated slowly, as though it might make more sense if I said it out loud again. "The firefighter?" "Yep," she answered, taking a nonchalant sip from her own cup. "The one you keep pretending you don't like. The one your brother keeps begging to keep an eye on you." I gaped at her. "What on earth possessed you two? And I'm not saying I like him," Sophie continued, as though I hadn't just experienced a minor heart attack. "I'm just saying, he's a firefighter. And you're terrible at asking for help. So, I figured you could use some." "I don't need Beckett Reed's help, Sophie." But Sophie was already busy pulling her phone from her bag, tapping away with the practiced ease of someone who'd already done this too many times. I stared at her, disbelieving. "You didn't." "Oh, I absolutely did." Sophie's smile was positively evil. "I entered the auction, and guess who's going to be your personal helper for the day?" My stomach dropped. "Please tell me you're joking." But before I could protest further, a voice I knew all too well suddenly rang out from behind me. "Did someone say personal helper?" I froze. Of course it was Beckett Reed, looking absurdly handsome in that annoying firefighter uniform. His trademark smirk was already in place as he leaned against the counter, watching me with far too much amusement. Sophie's eyes lit up. "Oh, there he is," she said, waving him over with far too much enthusiasm. "Just in time. Avery, meet your new personal assistant for the day, Beckett Reed." I felt my face flush. This couldn't be happening. "Sophie," I hissed under my breath. "You didn't?" "Oh, I totally did." She cut me off, practically bouncing in her seat. "And I think you're going to have a great time together." Beckett stepped closer, his grin widening. "So, what's the plan, Blake?" "What am I doing today?" I looked around, desperately hoping for some way out of this. This wasn't Sophie, you're insane." But Sophie, who clearly had no intention of backing down, simply shrugged. "You know where to find me if you need help, which you probably will." Beckett raised an eyebrow at me. "Sounds like you need some help. Got any plans, or should I just start with the heavy lifting?" I opened my mouth, ready to give him a piece of my mind, but Sophie, damn her, was already slipping out of the cafe, leaving me alone with him. "Great," I muttered under my breath, crossing my arms. "Looks like I'm stuck with you now." Beckett's grin widened to an almost ridiculous size. "You're welcome, Blake," he said. "Now, what are we doing first?" I swear, this man was too smug for his own good. "Chapter 2-inch all right," I said, trying to sound as casual as possible. "You're here. Let's get this over with." Beckett was standing in my driveway, looking way too pleased with himself. His arms were crossed, his firefighter uniform uncomfortably tight across his broad shoulders. There was no way he didn't know how good he looked in that ridiculous outfit. "So, what's on the agenda?" he asked, his voice too smooth for my liking. "You got something heavy to lift, something that needs fixing, or do you just want me to hang around and look pretty?" I shot him a glare. "I'm not paying you to stand there and look pretty," I snapped, crossing my arms. "Let's start with the garage." His eyes twinkled mischievously. "The garage? I love a good messy garage. Let's see what we're working with." I immediately regretted that suggestion. I had no idea how much junk had piled up over the years until I was standing in front of my cluttered garage door. "Not as organized as your typical firefighter's gear, huh?" Beckett chuckled as he stepped inside. He didn't wait for an invitation. I followed him reluctantly. "You're a real piece of work, you know that?" Beckett's smirk never faded as he began rifling through the piles of old boxes, discarded furniture, and forgotten Christmas decorations. I watched him with one eye, trying to figure out if I could sneak away and somehow escape this ridiculous day. "Wow," he said, pulling out an old cardboard box. "Look at this. Do you still have all these trophies? What, were you a track star or something?" I froze. "Don't you dare touch that," I warned, moving toward him. Beckett held up a small trophy. "A trophy for best synchronized swimming team?" He burst out laughing. "You were on a synchronized swimming team?" I felt my face flush. "Give it back." "Nope." Beckett teased, holding it just out of my reach. "This is going right on the mantle." I lunged for it, but he stepped back with a laugh. "You're seriously going to make me chase you for it?" My brain told me to just let it go, but something inside me snapped. I darted forward, trying to snatch the trophy out of his hand, but in doing so, I knocked over a pile of old boxes. The loud crash sent both of us jumping. Beckett's eyes widened, but before I could even apologize, he was already gathering the fallen boxes with ridiculous ease. "Careful, Blake. You might need a spotter for this." Yeah, I muttered, embarrassed. "You're a real expert at making a mess." "I prefer to think of it as making things fun," he said, winking. "Besides, I found your old dance recital VHS tapes. Gotta say, I'm looking forward to watching those." I grabbed the tape out of his hands before he could even pop it into a player. "Not happening," I said, holding it close to my chest. "If you even think about watching those, I swear I'll burn them all." Beckett just laughed, tossing the rest of the boxes aside like it was nothing. Fine. No embarrassing tapes for me. But you're kind of fun when you're flustered." I shot him a look. "You really need to stop saying stuff like that. I'm not here to entertain you." "Oh, I think you're exactly here to entertain me." Beckett's grin only grew, the cocky glint in his eyes making me want to punch him. "And let's be real, I'm already doing all the heavy lifting. All you've done is make a mess." I crossed my arms, glaring at him. "You're the one who knocked over the boxes." "Sure," he said, casually shrugging. "But I also fixed a few things while I was at it." He pointed to the leaky hose reel I hadn't noticed before. That thing was about to burst. I blinked. "I didn't even know it was broken." Beckett raised an eyebrow. "And that, my dear, is why you need a firefighter around." I rolled my eyes. "Oh, right. A firefighter. Of course. That's what I'm here for," Beckett said with a shrug, a grin tugging at the corners of his lips. I hated how helpful he was. Chapter 3. By the time Beckett and I reached the grocery store, I was already regretting every decision that had led me here. "I don't need you," I said for what felt like the 100th time, trying to sound as convincing as possible. "You can just go back to your firefighting duties." Beckett shot me a sidelong glance as we pushed the cart down the aisle. "I'm here because your best friend paid for me. And because your brother is convinced you're incapable of taking care of yourself." "Well, that's a load of careful, Blake. You don't want to start swearing in front of all these innocent people." Beckett's teasing grin made me wish I could disappear into the linoleum floor. I shot him a death glare, but he didn't even flinch. Of course not. This was Beckett Reed, the man who loved to irritate me at every turn. "So," he said, scanning the shelves, "what are we getting today? You got a shopping list, or are we just wandering aimlessly like two lost souls?" "Don't act like you know anything about grocery shopping," I snapped, trying to pull myself together. "I'm the one who does the shopping, not you." "Right, but I bet I could teach you a thing or two. Like how to pick the best avocados, or," he paused, lifting a bunch of bananas from the display, "how to pick the most photogenic fruit." I was half tempted to grab the bananas and throw them at him, but I refrained. "Barely. Why don't you stick to saving lives, firefighter?" I muttered, grabbing a bag of flour from the shelf. Beckett just chuckled. "What's the deal with this place, anyway? You seriously need to buy all this stuff." I huffed. "It's a grocery store, Beckett. It's where we buy food. You've heard of it, right?" He ignored me, picking up random items and placing them in the cart. "I think I'll throw in a couple bags of chips, just to spice things up." "Don't you dare," I warned, reaching to grab the chips out of the cart. Too late. Beckett was already adding more to the mix, tossing in an extra package of cookies just to prove a point. "This is the fun part of shopping," he said, looking too pleased with himself. I was about to argue when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Oh my gosh, Avery." I turned around, already knowing who it was. Nancy Green, my nosy neighbor, stood in front of us with a ridiculously wide smile plastered across her face. "Are you and Beckett shopping together?" I could feel my face go red. "We're just, oh, how sweet," Nancy exclaimed, practically bouncing on her heels. "It's so nice to see you two out together." "So romantic." "Really?" Beckett said, looking entirely too pleased with himself. I was just saying to Avery here that we're practically a couple. I shot him a glare that could melt steel, but Beckett didn't even flinch. He just kept grinning. Nancy looked absolutely delighted. Oh, I knew it. I always said you two would be perfect together. She turned to me with a wink. You should tell Nolan. He'd love to hear this. I groaned inwardly. Great. Now my entire neighborhood was going to think I was dating Beckett Reed, the man who couldn't take anything seriously. Yeah, I'm sure Nolan will be thrilled, I muttered, trying to recover from the awkwardness. Beckett looked at me, an eyebrow raised. What? You don't want the whole town to know you're with me? I grabbed the nearest box of cereal and dropped it into the cart just to have something to do with my hands. You're the one who keeps making it weird, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. It's not like we're actually. Before I could finish my sentence, Nancy let out a little squeal. Well, I'll leave you two lovebirds to it. But just remember, Avery, if you ever need any advice, you know where to find me. As Nancy walked off, still grinning like a Cheshire cat, Beckett looked over at me with an expression that could only be described as too smug for words. See? You're already warming up to the idea of us, he teased. I rolled my eyes, throwing a packet of pasta into the cart. The only thing I'm warming up to is getting through this grocery store without dying of embarrassment. Beckett chuckled and leaned closer, lowering his voice to a mock whisper. I think I'd make a pretty great boyfriend, don't you? I shot him a side eye. If you think I'm going to fall for this, you're even dumber than I thought. He shrugged, clearly not bothered. It's a slow burn, Blake. I'll get you eventually. And just like that, I realized he might be right. Chapter 4, I thought I was free. I thought that after the grocery store fiasco, Beckett would just leave me alone, content with his little victory over the most awkward shopping trip of my life. But no, he had a way of making things worse. IT started when I decided to treat myself to a quiet coffee at the local cafe, desperate for a break from all the chaos. Sophie had made herself scarce after the grocery store incident, leaving me to my own devices. I sat down with my cup of coffee, relieved by the peace and quiet. The only thing missing was the sound of my own thoughts. And then, of course, Beckett Reed walked through the door. Blake. I froze, my heart sinking. Are you stalking me? Beckett strolled toward my table, completely unfazed by my less-than welcoming tone. I'm just here for a coffee. I didn't know you were such a regular, he said, his voice too smooth for my liking. I crossed my arms over my chest and tried to ignore him. You know, I'd appreciate it if you didn't follow me around. He slid into the chair across from me, completely ignoring my protest. I'm not following you. I'm just here for my coffee. Besides, I thought we were spending the day together. No, we're not. I shot him a glare. I didn't sign up for this, Reed. Beckett gave a lazy shrug, his eyes twinkling with that too cocky for his own good look that I was growing all too familiar with. You didn't have to. Sophie did it for you. I'm just making sure you're okay. I'm fine, I snapped. Really? Because you looked like you were about to throw a punch at me earlier. I opened my mouth to argue, but before I could say anything, the barista called out my name. Avery? I stood up and grabbed my coffee, trying to avoid Beckett's gaze. I'll be on my way now. Thanks for nothing. Beckett followed me, not a single sign of defeat on his face. You know, for someone who doesn't want me around, you sure act like you enjoy the attention. I paused mid-step, glaring at him over my shoulder. If you think I'm enjoying this, you've lost your mind. Oh, come on, Beckett said, catching up to me with that infuriatingly confident stride of his. You can't tell me I don't brighten up your day. I rolled my eyes. If you think your smug smile is doing me any favors, you're sorely mistaken. We stepped out of the cafe and onto the sidewalk, the cool air hitting me like a splash of cold water. I had no idea how I had let it get to this point. Beckett took a step closer, his voice lowering to something serious. You know, I'm not here just to annoy you. I actually care about your safety. About you. I froze, the sincerity in his voice catching me off guard. You care about me? Yeah, he said softly, looking me in the eyes. I do. And I know you don't want me around, but sometimes you need help, whether you admit it or not. I felt my heart skip a beat, and for the first time that day, I wasn't sure how to respond. Beckett saw the shift in my expression and smirked. Don't get soft on me, Blake. I'm not going anywhere. I turned away, trying to regain my composure. I don't need your help, I muttered under my breath. I'm fine on my own. But the truth was, I wasn't entirely sure anymore. Chapter 5, it was one of those days, the kind where everything seemed to go wrong and there was no way to fix it. Of course, this particular disaster happened when I least expected it, and when I was miles away from home. I had just finished a meeting with a client, my brain still buzzing with legal jargon and paperwork I was desperately trying to avoid. I climbed into my car, ready to head home and curl up with a book, when it happened. The engine sputtered. I turned the key again. Nothing. I cursed under my breath and tried again, but my car refused to cooperate. Of course it did. Just my luck. I checked the gas gauge, half full. Okay, so it wasn't that. Maybe the battery was dead? I popped the hood open, staring at the engine like I actually knew what I was looking at. The silence of the empty parking lot was only broken by the occasional honk or distant chatter, but my own thoughts were racing. I had no idea what to do. Just as I was about to grab my phone to call a tow truck, I heard that familiar voice. Having trouble? I turned, my heart sinking. Beckett. He stood at the edge of the parking lot, leaning casually against his truck with that smug smile I had grown to both dread and, okay, fine, kind of like. I don't need your help, I muttered, already annoyed by the fact that he was standing there looking too good for his own good. I'll figure it out. Beckett pushed himself off his truck and strolled toward me, not even remotely fazed by my dismissive tone. Not much you can do when your car's dead, is there? I rolled my eyes, trying to hide my frustration. I'm fine. I'll just call roadside assistance. Which is exactly what you should have done in the first place. He grinned, walking past me to open the hood. But, lucky for you, I happen to know a thing or two about cars. I glared at him. Really? Because the last time I checked, you were a firefighter, not a mechanic. Beckett gave me a sideways glance. You'd be surprised how many times a firefighter needs to know basic car repairs. You never know what's gonna happen when you're on a call. I opened my mouth to argue, but he was already working on the engine, popping open a few panels and looking around like he was doing brain surgery on a patient. Beckett, I don't need you to fix this, I said, crossing my arms. I can handle it. Of course you can, he said without looking up. But I'm here now, so we might as well make it easier. I sighed, finally giving in. Fine, but I'm not going to thank you. He chuckled. I don't need to thank you. I just need you to admit that I'm right. I rolled my eyes again. I'll never admit that. Suit yourself, Beckett said, clearly enjoying every second of this. But while I work my magic, why don't you relax? You know, let me rescue you for once. I glared at him again, but this time, I couldn't stop the faint smile that tugged at my lips. Beckett had that effect on me, whether I liked it or not. He finished fiddling with the engine and gave the key a turn. The car purred to life, much to my surprise. There you go. Good as new. I stared at him in disbelief. You fixed it. Beckett shrugged. Told you. You just needed to let me help. I crossed my arms, still annoyed but grudgingly impressed. You can't just swoop in and fix everything, Beckett. He raised an eyebrow. You seem to forget, Blake, that's literally my job. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could, he slid into his truck and winked at me. See you around, Blake. Don't be a stranger. I watched him drive off, my thoughts a jumbled mess of frustration, confusion, and maybe just a little appreciation. Chapter 6, it was supposed to be a quiet night. I had cooked myself a simple dinner, a salad, a bit of grilled chicken, nothing fancy. I was sitting on the couch, trying to watch a movie and avoid thinking about the strange mix of emotions Beckett seemed to stir up in me. It was then that I heard a knock on the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. It was barely 7 p.m., and I wasn't exactly the life of the party on a Monday evening. I opened the door to find none other than Beckett Reed standing on my doorstep, grinning like the Cheshire Cat. What are you doing here? I asked, already feeling my patience slip. I'm here for dinner, he said casually, as if this wasn't the most bizarre thing to say. Dinner? I blinked, thrown off. I'm not having guests tonight, Beckett. Oh, I think you are. He shrugged, as though I had invited him myself. I've already taken the liberty of bringing dessert. I glanced down at the box he was holding, an obnoxiously large chocolate cake. My eyes narrowed. "Did you just buy your way into my home with cake?" "Absolutely," Beckett replied, not even pretending to be sorry. "But I also figured you might need some company after I saved you earlier." "You didn't save me, Beckett. My car was fine." I protested, but even I could hear the weakness in my voice. "Right. Of course it was," he said, his grin widening. "I just made it better." I sighed, defeated. "Fine, come in. But only because I don't know how to get rid of you otherwise." He practically waltzed past me into my apartment, dropping the cake on the counter like it was his rightful place. I shook my head. "You can't just keep showing up uninvited, Reed." Beckett set down the box and turned to face me, his expression mock serious. "I'm a firefighter, Blake. I'm trained to show up in emergencies. And trust me, you are one emergency after another." "Great." Just what I needed to hear, I muttered. Walking into the kitchen, I started setting the table, ignoring Beckett as he made himself comfortable on my couch. It was awkward, but not entirely in a bad way. Beckett was impossible, but there was something oddly comfortable about his presence. He wasn't like everyone else, always trying to play it safe or polite. He just was. "Hey," Beckett called out from the living room. I didn't mean to make things weird. I turned, surprised by the rare sincerity in his voice. "What?" "Look," he said, standing up and walking over to me. "I know I'm probably annoying the hell out of you, but I honestly just want to make sure you're okay." I stopped setting the table and gave him a long look. "You're just doing this because my brother told you to, aren't you?" "Maybe," Beckett said with a shrug, but his expression softened. "But that doesn't mean I don't care. Just, let me help." I opened my mouth to protest, but before I could say anything, Beckett had already grabbed the 2 plates I had set out and placed them on the table. "I'm not asking for much, Blake. Just dinner and a little company." I stood there for a moment, unsure how to respond. Part of me wanted to argue, to push him away again. But another part, the part one didn't want to admit, liked having him around. I sighed and sat down at the table. "You're not going to leave, are you?" Beckett smiled. "Nope." As I reluctantly dug into my salad, I couldn't help but notice how easy it felt to have him there. I hated how much I was starting to enjoy his company, but one thing was for sure, I wasn't going to admit it, not yet, anyway. Chapter 7, I was starting to question my sanity. Beckett had officially turned into an uninvited fixture in my life. It had started with the dinner, and now he was back for more. It was like I couldn't shake him off no matter how hard I tried. Tonight, I was supposed to be meeting Sophie at a bar for a much-needed girls' night out. I'd spent all week dealing with stress at work, and I needed to unwind. So when I opened the door to find Beckett on the other side, leaning casually against the frame with that grin that made me want to strangle him, I nearly lost it. "Blake, you're not going anywhere without me." I didn't even have time to speak before he slipped past me into the apartment, completely at ease as if he were invited. "Seriously?" I asked, closing the door behind him. "Sophie and I are going out tonight." "I'm coming along," Beckett said, unbothered by my annoyance. "Don't make it weird." I crossed my arms. "You can't just show up uninvited. This is a girls' night. You're not a girl. I'm not here to crash your girls' night. I'm here to make sure you don't do anything stupid." I blinked, taken aback. "Stupid? You're calling me stupid now." Beckett raised an eyebrow. "Not you, Blake. I'm just saying, some guy might try to flirt with you, and I can't have that." The ridiculousness of his words left me speechless. "Are you serious right now?" "Totally." He crossed his arms, looking proud of himself. "I'm just making sure you stay safe, you know? Keeping an eye out for you." I let out a frustrated breath. "I don't need anyone keeping an eye on me. I'm an adult." Beckett leaned in closer, his voice dropping low. "You don't always have to do everything by yourself, Blake. You've got people who care about you. People like me." I stopped in my tracks, feeling something in my chest tighten at his words. He said it so easily, so matter-of-factly. And there it was again, the truth I didn't want to admit. I had gotten used to doing everything on my own, but in some strange, unexplainable way, Beckett had a point. Before I could think of a response, Sophie barged through the door, looking between Beckett and me with a grin. "What's this? A surprise date night?" I threw my hands up in exasperation. He invited himself. Sophie laughed and gave Beckett a once-over. I like this. You two are cute together. I shot her a glare. Stop. He's not staying. I'm not doing this. But Beckett just shrugged. You can't kick me out now. Sophie, back me up here. Sophie raised an eyebrow. Well, if it's a fight you want, I'll side with Beckett. Unbelievable, I muttered under my breath. Fine, whatever. But if you ruin my night, Reed, you'll regret it. Beckett chuckled, clearly unfazed by my threat. You're starting to enjoy my company, Blake. Admit it. I rolled my eyes and grabbed my purse. I'll let you think that, Reed. But I'm really not enjoying this. Sophie threw me a wink as she grabbed her coat. Sure you aren't. As we headed out the door, I couldn't help but glance over my shoulder at Beckett, still leaning casually against the wall with that knowing look in his eyes. I hated how right he was. Chapter 8 Sophie had warned me that bringing Beckett along was a bad idea, but I hadn't listened. Of course, it was too late now. We had arrived at the bar and Beckett, being Beckett, had already made himself at home. He was perched on a bar stool, chatting with the bartender like he owned the place, while Sophie and I tried to figure out how to salvage our night. Maybe if we pretend he's not here, we can enjoy ourselves. I suggested, trying to keep my frustration in check. Sophie laughed. Right, because that'll totally work. He's not exactly the invisible type. I sighed and took a sip of my drink, watching Beckett in the distance as he charmed the entire room with that effortless swagger of his. The man had no filter and no concept of personal space. Well, Sophie said, nudging me with her elbow. At least he's cute. I shot her a look. Really? That's the defense you're going with? She shrugged. It's true. I mean, he's annoying, but he does have that whole gruff firefighter thing going for him. You can't deny it. I wasn't about to admit that Sophie was right. Beckett was definitely attractive, ridiculously so, but that didn't make up for his endless teasing, unsolicited opinions, and the fact that he never seemed to take a hint. We spent the next half hour trying to ignore Beckett's presence, but it was impossible. He had somehow wandered over to our table and was now sitting far too close for comfort, his knee brushing mine every time he shifted. How's the drink, Blake? He asked, leaning in a little too much, his breath warm against my skin. It's fine, I said, trying to stay calm. Not that you're going to let me have any peace tonight. Beckett grinned, completely unfazed by my frustration. Peace is overrated. I rolled my eyes, but before I could respond, a guy approached our table. He was tall, with dark hair and a confident smile. He gave Sophie a friendly nod, then turned to me. Hey, he said. I couldn't help but notice you across the room. I'm Ryan. I offered a polite smile. Nice to meet you, Ryan. Sophie shot me a look, but I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. It had been a while since I'd met anyone interesting, and I wasn't about to be rude. Ryan continued chatting, but I could feel Beckett's eyes on me, and it made me uncomfortably aware of the situation. Every time Ryan leaned in to talk, Beckett's posture grew more rigid, his eyes narrowing. Is there something I should know? Sophie whispered to me, noticing the tension between Beckett and me. I shook my head, trying to play it cool. It's nothing, just a little distraction. But Sophie raised an eyebrow. Uh-huh. And what about that distraction? She teased, nodding toward Beckett, who was clearly not hiding his irritation. Ryan seemed oblivious to the drama unfolding in front of him, so I decided to give him my full attention, hoping to ignore the obvious tension in the room. But of course, Beckett wasn't having any of it. He stood up, walked over to us, and, without a word, placed his hand on my shoulder. Hey, Blake, he said in his usual smug tone. I need you to come with me for a second. I stared at him. Beckett, what the hell are you doing? I'll explain later, he said firmly, dragging me out of my seat before I had a chance to protest. Sophie stared after us, her mouth agape. What the hell just happened? I shot her an apologetic look. I'll make sure he's not ruining everything. As we reached the back of the bar, I pulled away from Beckett, clearly irritated. What are you doing, Reed? He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his jaw tight. That guy, Ryan, I asked, confused. Beckett nodded. He was hitting on you. So, I snapped. That's what people do at bars. I didn't like it, he said bluntly, still staring at me with that stubborn look in his eyes. I raised an eyebrow. Are you jealous? Beckett scowled. No. I just don't want anyone getting the wrong idea about you. I folded my arms, feeling my irritation boil over. I'm perfectly capable of handling myself, Beckett. I don't need you to play the hero every time some guy looks at me. He opened his mouth to argue, but before he could, I held up a hand. You can't keep doing this. You're not my guardian, and I don't need you to fix things for me. He looked at me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Finally, he sighed. I get it, but I don't trust that guy. I glared at him. You don't trust anyone, Beckett. He chuckled. Maybe that's true. Then why are you still here? I asked, exasperated. Because, he said, voice softer now, I care. And for some insane reason, I don't want to see you get hurt. I didn't know what to say to that, and for the first time all night, I found myself wondering, what the hell was I going to do with him? Chapter 9 The night was quickly spiraling out of control. Beckett had escorted me away from Ryan, who I honestly wasn't even that interested in, but something about Beckett's over-the-top reactions made me frustrated in a way I hadn't expected. I was still processing the fact that he genuinely cared, or at least, that's what it seemed like. We ended up outside the bar, leaning against the cold brick wall. I crossed my arms tightly over my chest, trying to keep the cool air from seeping in, but honestly, I was more focused on the quiet tension between us. So, I said, finally breaking the silence, I guess this is where you tell me how much of an idiot I am for trying to talk to another guy. Beckett shook his head, his usual cocky grin nowhere to be found. You're not an idiot, Blake. I scoffed. Yeah, right. You sure didn't look like you thought that when you practically dragged me out of there. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I didn't mean to upset you. Then why did you do it? I asked, my voice quieter now. Beckett shifted uncomfortably. I don't know, he muttered, looking anywhere but at me. I just don't want you getting hurt. I stared at him, blinking in confusion. I'm not some helpless damsel in distress, Beckett. I can handle myself. I know that, he said quickly, his voice firm. But sometimes I forget, okay? I stood there, feeling the weight of his words settle in. It was hard to admit it, but part of me understood. It wasn't about me needing saving. It was about him caring more than I realized. You're not what I expected, I said softly, unsure why I felt the need to say it. What do you mean? Beckett asked, clearly caught off guard. I hesitated, not sure if I should continue. I thought you were just a cocky firefighter who thought everyone needed him. But you actually care. Beckett's gaze softened, and he stepped closer. You think I'm cocky? That's an understatement, I quipped, trying to lighten the mood, but my voice lacked its usual bite. He chuckled, but there was no teasing in it. Yeah, I can be a little, much sometimes. I glanced up at him, my heart racing for reasons I wasn't willing to admit. Why? Why do you care so much about me? Beckett's expression faltered for a second, as if the question caught him off guard. I don't know, he admitted. I just do. I'm not great at this whole feelings thing. I raised an eyebrow. I never would have guessed. He chuckled again, shaking his head. Yeah, well, it's not easy for me to admit this, but I want you to be safe. I want to make sure you're okay. And I guess I don't want you to do this whole lone wolf thing alone anymore. My chest tightened at his words. I wanted to say something sarcastic, something that would deflect the growing warmth in my heart, but I couldn't. For once, I didn't want to. Beckett, I started, my voice quieter than I intended. I don't need you to be my protector. I know, he said softly, but it's hard for me to let go. Before I could respond, he took another step closer, his hand brushing lightly against mine. For a moment, neither of us spoke, the weight of everything between us hanging in the air. You're not as bad as I thought, I murmured, the words slipping out before I could stop them. Beckett's lips twitched into a smile. I'll take that as a compliment. I rolled my eyes, but the smile I couldn't fight tugged at my lips. You're impossible. Maybe he agreed, his voice low. But I'll still be here if you'll let me. And that was it. No grand confession, no dramatic moment, just the two of us standing in the cold night air, with everything changing without either of us saying a word. Chapter 10. It was officially the weirdest night of my life. I couldn't even pretend that things were normal anymore. Beckett and I had shared a moment, an honest, vulnerable moment, and now everything felt different. The air between us was charged, but we were still trying to figure out what to do with it. After the conversation outside the bar, I expected Beckett to go back to his usual self, cocky, teasing, and ever-present. But instead, there was this strange quiet between us. Sophie, of course, picked up on it immediately. "So," she said, eyeing me as I sat down at the bar, nursing my drink. "You and Beckett, huh?" I felt my face flush. "What?" "No." She raised an eyebrow. "Uh-huh. I mean, you two definitely have some chemistry." "I don't know what you're talking about," I muttered, my gaze flickering over to Beckett, who was talking to some other firefighters at the other end of the bar. "You were definitely not talking earlier." Sophie wiggled her eyebrows suggestively. "You guys are cute together." I threw my hands up in frustration. "Sophie, stop. Nothing's happening between us." "Okay." She didn't buy it for a second. Sure. She smirked. "You know, you're allowed to like him, right?" "I don't," I said a little too forcefully. Sophie raised both hands in mock surrender. Okay. But don't say I didn't warn you." I didn't know how to feel about that. Because part of me, more than I was willing to admit, did like Beckett. But the other part of me? The part that had built a life of independence and distance, didn't know how to process that feeling. The rest of the night passed in a blur. I spent most of my time avoiding Beckett's gaze, trying not to let him see how much I was thinking about the words we'd shared outside. It wasn't like me to be so unsettled by someone else's feelings, but Beckett had a way of making everything feel complicated. Around midnight, when Sophie and I decided to head out, I was surprised to see Beckett standing by the exit, waiting for us. "I'm going to walk you home," he said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I opened my mouth to protest, but Sophie beat me to it. "Good idea, Beckett. Don't let her go alone." I shot Sophie a glare, but she just winked at me, clearly enjoying the chaos she'd helped create. I turned back to Beckett, forcing a smile. "You really don't need to walk me home. I can take care of myself." He raised an eyebrow. "I know you can, but I'm still walking you home." I could tell there was no way out of this. "Fine, whatever," I muttered. "But you're not staying over." Beckett chuckled. "I wasn't planning on it, Blake." The walk was quiet. We didn't speak much, and that was fine with me. There was something peaceful about it, though, a strange comfort in knowing he was there, just a few steps behind me. When we reached my apartment building, I turned to face him. "Well, this is it." Beckett stopped, looking down at me. "I'm glad you're home safe." "Thanks," I said, not quite sure what to say next. For a long moment, we just stood there, neither of us moving. "Good night, Blake," Beckett finally said, his voice softer than usual. "Good night," I replied, before turning to head inside. As I unlocked the door, I heard him call out one more time. "Blake?" I looked back, meeting his eyes. "Don't be so hard on yourself," he said quietly. "You deserve to let someone help you once in a while." The words hung in the air between us as I stepped inside, closing the door softly behind me. Chapter 11. I didn't expect Beckett's words to linger the way they did. I spent most of the next day trying to shake off the feeling that had settled in my chest. The moment outside the bar, his soft tone, the way he'd looked at me like I was more than just someone to protect, it all felt heavier than I was ready to admit, but I was determined to push it aside. I wasn't going to let myself get wrapped up in whatever this was between Beckett and me. I was fine on my own. I didn't need anyone, least of all him. But the universe had other plans. That afternoon, I was at the coffee shop, trying to get some work done. I had my usual spot by the window, a steaming mug in front of me, when I heard a familiar voice. "Mind if I join you?" I looked up to see Beckett standing there, his uniform still on, looking annoyingly good. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "What are you doing here?" He grinned. "Just thought I'd stop by. You know, check on you." "Check on me," I repeated, raising an eyebrow. "I'm fine, thanks." Beckett's eyes sparkled with mischief. "I'm sure you are. But I haven't seen you in a while, and you know I can't stay away for long." I rolled my eyes. "You really do think you're irresistible, don't you?" Not irresistible, he said with a wink. Just hard to ignore. I sighed, motioning to the empty seat across from me. Fine, you can sit for a minute. But I'm working. He slid into the chair, still grinning. I'll be as quiet as a mouse. Of course, that lasted all of 10 minutes before he started talking again. So, how's the I don't need anyone routine working out for you? He asked, his tone teasing but not unkind. I shot him a glare, but the smile I tried to hide slipped out. It's fine. I don't need anyone getting involved. Beckett raised an eyebrow. So, you're saying you're not interested in having someone help you with anything? I shook my head, a little too quickly. I'm good. Really? Right, he said with a knowing smile. Just don't come crying to me when you get yourself into a mess and can't get out of it. I blinked, surprised by the sudden seriousness in his voice. What do you mean by that? He leaned back in his chair, the smile gone now. I just mean, you don't have to do everything alone, Blake. It's okay to let someone help sometimes. The words hit me harder than I expected, and I felt my chest tighten. I didn't want to admit it, but he was right. I had spent so long convincing myself I didn't need anyone, and now I was starting to wonder if that was even true. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed on the table. I grabbed it, glancing at the message from Sophie. I hope you're not letting Beckett charm his way into your life. I swear, that guy's a walking disaster. I couldn't help but smile at Sophie's protective nature. But she wasn't wrong. Beckett was a disaster, just not the kind I expected. I looked back at him, meeting his gaze. You're not as annoying as I thought, I said quietly to Beckett's eyes softened. Good to know, but I'll still be here when you need me. I opened my mouth to say something, but the words didn't come out. Instead, I just nodded, feeling something shift in the air between us. Maybe I didn't need Beckett to save me, but maybe I needed him more than I was willing to admit. Chapter 12. It had been a week since that coffee shop conversation, and I still couldn't get Beckett's words out of my head. It's okay to let someone help sometimes. Those simple words had rattled me more than I was willing to admit. I didn't like needing anyone. I didn't like feeling like I was weak or incapable of handling things on my own. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized Beckett wasn't asking me to be weak. He was just offering me something I didn't even know I wanted. Support. That realization hit me like a freight train, and I didn't know what to do with it. I spent the week avoiding him as much as I could, trying to distract myself with work and everything else I could manage. But I couldn't escape the fact that he kept showing up, whether it was to check in on me after a long shift, to ask if I needed help with something, or just to remind me that he was there. And I started to realize something else. It wasn't just the help he was offering. It was the way he made me feel. I wasn't used to being the one to feel vulnerable, but with Beckett, I couldn't help it. And the worst part was, I liked IT. IT was late one evening when I finally broke down and texted him. I need your help. I stared at the words for a moment, wondering if I had just made the biggest mistake of my life. But before I could second-guess myself, my phone buzzed with a reply. On my way. True to his word, Beckett showed up at my apartment within minutes. He knocked on my door, looking like he had just finished his shift, his uniform still on, but his eyes softened when he saw me. You okay? He asked gently, his usual cocky demeanor gone. I nodded, though I wasn't sure I believed it. I just need to talk. He stepped inside without hesitation, closing the door behind him. All right, talk. I hesitated, unsure of how to begin. I've been pushing you away, I said quietly, looking down at the floor. I didn't want to need anyone. But I think I was wrong. Beckett's eyes softened even more. He didn't say anything at first, just waiting for me to continue. I've spent so much time convincing myself that I'm fine on my own, I said, my voice cracking slightly. But I'm not. And I guess I don't want to be alone anymore. His expression turned serious, and he took a step closer to me. Blake, you're not alone. You don't have to do everything on your own. I'm here. I looked up at him, searching his eyes for any sign of doubt. But there was none. Just the quiet understanding that I hadn't expected, the kind that made me feel like I was finally being seen for who I really was. Without thinking, I took a step forward, closing the distance between us. And before I could stop myself, I reached up and kissed him. It wasn't dramatic or earth-shattering. It was simple, honest, and full of everything I had been holding back. Beckett didn't pull away. Instead, his hands cupped my face gently, his thumb brushing against my cheek as he kissed me back. When we finally pulled away, breathless, I leaned against his chest, trying to steady my racing heart. "Are we really doing this?" I whispered, half expecting him to laugh it off or pull away. He didn't. He just held me tighter. I hope so. And in that moment, I realized something else. I didn't need Beckett to rescue me. But maybe, just maybe, I needed him in ways I had never imagined. Epilogue. Not so alone anymore. A few months later, things with Beckett had settled into something normal. Well, as normal as it could be when you were in a relationship with a firefighter who thought you needed to be rescued every 5 seconds. I had to admit, though, I had gotten used to it. Maybe even started liking it. The teasing, the joking, the moments when he'd swoop in to help with something I could easily handle on my own, but somehow, it didn't feel like he was undermining me. It just felt right. I no longer felt like I was constantly fighting to prove I didn't need anyone. Because I realized that I didn't have to be alone to be strong. And Beckett? He didn't need to be my hero. He just needed to be there. One Saturday morning, I was sitting on the couch, sipping my coffee, when Beckett walked into the living room, looking like he had just run a marathon. "I need a break," he grumbled, flopping down beside me. I raised an eyebrow, taking in his disheveled state. "You've been on the clock for, what, 3 hours?" Beckett shot me a look. "You have no idea what it's like saving lives." I laughed, reaching over to ruffle his hair. "I'm sure you're just exhausted." He leaned in and kissed my cheek. "You have no idea how much I love you, right?" I smiled, feeling the warmth spread through me. "I think I'm starting to get it." I paused for a moment, then added, "I think I love you too." Beckett grinned, his eyes lighting up with something I hadn't seen before. "You do, huh?" I nodded. "Yeah, I do." It wasn't some grand declaration. It wasn't a dramatic, movie-worthy moment. It was just honest. And that was all we needed. Beckett pulled me closer, resting his head on my shoulder. "Well, you're stuck with me now." I looked down at him, smiling as I tangled my fingers in his. "I'm okay with that." And just like that, I realized that I hadn't just found someone who helped me when I needed it. I had found someone who loved me, not in spite of my independence, but because of it. Maybe I hadn't needed saving after all. But I sure as hell was glad Beckett was there when I figured that out.